Finance and Human Resources Committee
and Community Services.
and Community Services. We'll call the meeting to order.
Ms. Butts.
Here.
Ms. Shakarian.
Here.
Mr. Corrigan.
Here.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Here.
Ms. Fryer.
Here.
And Mr. Parker.
Yes, here.
Okay. First item, we're going to try to go through pretty fast here, and because this is the first time in a while, we're both doing a full finance committee and going to a full board. So we'll go through these pretty fast. Exhibit 1 is a resolution to accept the gifts for the month of March. It's one of their usual reports. Resolve the gifts described in the gift report for March of 24 be accepted upon conditions connected with said gifts in accordance with section 3375.40K of the Ohio Revised Code. So moved.
Second. Ms. Shakarian.
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan.
Yes.
And Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 2 is a resolution authorizing the agreement with Tech Inc. Engineering and Design for Criteria Architect Services for the main library and Lewis Stokes Wing Fire Alarm System Replacement Project. Where in February, report accepted the recommendation to provide new criteria architect services for the main library's fire alarm system, and where the board authorized the director to enter into negotiations with Tech Inc. And after discussions between the library and Tech, the proposal phased fixed fee basis for $333,000 in base services, an allowance of $37,600 for additional services, and an additional allowance for reimbursable expenses of $2,000 for a grand total of $372,600. Whereas the property management staff notes that the fee includes laser scanning and 3D modeling, which accounts for nearly 50% of the fee, and which services were included in the original request in contemplation of the project scope. Whereas the board finds the fee for the criteria architect services for the fire alarm system replacement project to be fair and reasonable, therefore be resolved that the board authorizes the executive director, CEO, or as designated to execute an agreement with Tech Inc. Engineering Design, an amount not to exceed $372,600 for the criteria architect services for the fire alarm replacement project, upon such terms and conditions are as approved by the library's director of legal affairs, and such other documents as are necessary appropriate to effectuate the agreement in accordance with this resolution, with the expenditures being charged to building repair fund account 401-90105-55300222901 construction improvements. So moved to go for Thursday for the full board.
Second.
Ms. Shakarian.
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan.
Yes.
And Mr. Parker.
Yes.
And John, there's really nothing surprising. This is what we were talking about doing all along on this.
That's right. So as the resolution indicates, the board approved the selection of Tech 2 months ago. We spent the last 2 months negotiating scope and fee. The 3D laser modeling to develop the as-built images for the building are critical to the success of the project. So we contemplated doing that as a separate contract. Decided in the end we put it in with the criteria engineering services. That was going to be in the scope all along.
And we basically have the benefit of using that for any other future projects we have.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's great. Exhibit 3 is a resolution to amend design services agreement with Bostwick Design Partnership for the main library consolidation project. Whereas in June 16, 2011, the board authorized the library to enter agreement with Bostwick. Whereas on April 19, 2012, the board approved an amendment to that agreement. Whereas since Tech Central opened in 2012, it's been well used by the public and is in need of finish upgrades, lighting replacement, and repairs to its low profile raised floor. Whereas Bostwick submitted a proposal to the library to perform the design services needed for the upgrades for an additional fee of $61,700, thus increasing Bostwick's total compensation for the main library consolidation project phase 1 to $344,530.87, which fee this board finds to be fair and reasonable. Whereas on January 18th, the board accepted a gift from the Gene Z. Piety Trust to be used for expenditures in connection with the development and expansion of makerspace on the first floor of Lewis Stokes Wing, and the library wishes to use this gift for the Tech Central 2.0 project, which aligns with the board's intent. Now therefore be it resolved, the board authorizes Director, CEO, or as designated to enter an agreement with Bostwick Design Partnership to the main library consolidation project phase 1 Tech Central in the amount of $61,700, thus increasing the total compensation for Bostwick to $344,530.87, which expenditure shall be charged to the Founders Fund account 203-96205-5530011-962, which agreement shall be subject to the approval of the library's Director of Legal Affairs. So moved to go to Thursday. Is there a second?
Second.
And John, this is, first off, I want to, for those who don't remember, Jane Piety is one of just the most important science librarians this library ever had, in terms of her looking out for us staying cutting edge and having all the right resources that a city like Cleveland deserves. But given that her trust has enabled us to go, tell us a little bit about it, John.
Yeah, internally, we're referring to this as the Tech Central 2.0 project. It's not really what that name implies. It's not a total get renovation of the Tech Central space. It's more of kind of a partial reimagining. IT team could speak more eloquently this than I can, but essentially the demand for desktop computing continues to reduce as the demand for all of the makerspace equipment in the space increases. And so this will rebalance the layout. This will add capacity for makerspace equipment. This will also let us kind of do a midlife renovation and deferred maintenance. So the raised flooring system, floor boxes for electrical and data, new lighting, and then new furniture.
And basically, one of the things this proves is the investment in that raised floor back when we built this building was worth making.
It's certainly going to make it a lot easier to rerun the cableways than if we had to trench a concrete floor. So that's for sure. Boswick was the original architect of record. That's why we've selected them as an amendment to the initial contract rather than as a new call for architects.
Thank you, John. And we'll take the
Ms.
vote.
Shakarian?
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan?
Yes.
And Mr. Parker?
Yes.
And Exhibit 4 is a resolution authorizing the acquisition of real property for the Rice Branch. Whereas New Village Corporation, doing business as STL Development LLC, is a subsidiary of Cleveland Neighborhood Progress and is the owner of a parcel of vacant land bearing permanent parcel number 12808-013, the property which is located adjacent to the library's Rice Branch. Whereas New Village approached the library to discuss the possibility of selling the property to the library for a nominal sum because the New Village had no use for it. Whereas the library administration completed its due diligence on the property and found no issues. Whereas the library administration recommends that this board authorize the library to purchase the property from New Village Corporation for the price of $1. Whereas the Ohio Revised Code 3375.35 requires the purchase of any real property be authorized by a 2/3 vote of the full membership of the board before making such purchase. Now therefore be resolved, the board authorizes the executive or CEO or his designee to enter into an agreement or agreements with New Village Corporation doing business as STL Development LLC in the amount of $1 plus costs of title insurance, recording escrow, and other closing fees, and to execute such other instruments as are necessary for the acquisition of the property bearing one permanent parcel number 12808.013, which agreement and instrument shall be subject to the approval of the Director of Legal Affairs, which amount shall be charged to the general fund account 177-60055-55100 land. So moved for Thursday.
Second.
Any
Gonna break the
substantial?
bank. I don't know.
Where is this?
So
I know where Rice is.
So
Oh, look, he came right to that one.
just to the west of ours is on the end of the,
Were we landscaping this already?
we were.
It's
Yeah,
where
I
the,
figured.
Where
This
is
is a,
It's right
it's a
here.
Just to
highlighted
the
portion
west
right
here?
there.
oh, is there?
This
that's
is
the
a
big tree. This
Piece
is
of
ours.
property
Just pull
that's
that up.
roughly
So this
160
is
by
what
50
space, yeah.
feet. It's been
Hardly.
owned by STL Development LLC, which is just a subsidiary of Cleveland Neighborhood Progress.
Right.
They held on to it from the time that they initially amassed all of the property when the new library was constructed and the new Harvey Rice School was constructed. I'm not quite sure why they held on to it, but they reached out to the library early this year saying, we've got this piece of property. Pretty sure you guys already think that you own it. And so we'd be looking to transfer it for a nominal fee. We've done full due diligence on it as if we were paying full price just to make sure that we are not stepping into a minefield of sorts with potential environmental or title concerns, and that's not the case here. So it's a piece of property, whether it's developable in the future or not. that we can add to our portfolio and add to the branch and perhaps use in the future.
Is that where our public art is? Is it on that? Somewhere our public
No,
art?
the public art is, I want to
East
say,
of
on
there.
the north end of the building,
Yeah,
facing the Harvey Rice School.
right. And so this piece of, I still can't picture it.
So this is our property
Yeah.
here, and then it's this little, it almost looks like it's the tree lawn facing Shaker.
Oh, so
Okay.
in front of, yeah, the parking lot. I see.
So we've been taking care of it all along.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been-
There's not much
And
to
that's
take
not where
care
the
of
big-
there.
Yeah,
It's
but
just, it's lawn and about, just shy of 8,000 square feet.
Yeah.
The tree is on the other section, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
We take a vote, Mr. Fisher, I think.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 5 is a resolution authorizing competitive bidding for Eastman Reading Garden Lighting Project. Whereas the Eastman Reading Garden with its Maya Lin design fountain and sculptures and its playful Tom Otterness design figures and entry gates is regarded by many as a true gem of downtown Cleveland, and whereas the administration retained the services of Ron Friedman Lighting Design to develop an exterior lighting solution for the Eastman Reading Garden with the goals of making the space more accessible and inviting to the public and highlighting its unique architectural features as well as those of the main library in the Lewis Stokes wing. Whereas Ron Friedman Lighting Design prepared detailed specs for installation into the garden that include lighting elements designed to accentuate architectural features, attract visitors, and increase safety. Whereas Ron Friedman Lighting Design estimates the new lighting equipment and labor required for installation will cost approximately $692,000, and whereas the library is bound by the Ohio Revised Code 337541, which requires a competitive bidding to be used to select a contractor for all construction projects over $75,000. Now therefore be it resolved, the executive director, CEO, or his designee is authorized to proceed with soliciting for competitive bids for the purchase and installation or installation alone of lighting equipment specified by Rod Friedman Lighting Design for the Eastern Reading Garden Lighting Project. So moved.
Second.
And I,
So both,
Yes.
Tiffany can speak to the artistic vision here. I'll just say that this is, as you can see, a fairly large project, $692,000. That's all in. We're still working with Carrie's team to determine the procurement system, since there's a specific lighting system we want to buy, working within Ohio Revised Code for procurement. So this was within our fiscal year 2024 vision, but hadn't been presented to the board previously. So I just wanted to give you an awareness of it before we proceed to bidding, and then of course we'd be back to board to approve any contract. Tiffany can speak to the intent of the project.
Yeah, sure. So we're charged with bringing more visitors through the garden, making it more, the space more visible to people staying in the hotels who are in town for conferences and other downtown visitors. And also the garden is open to the public so often, but it isn't very easy and clear to pass through. We also have a Maya Lin fountain, which many people don't realize we have and would be a major attraction for people visiting the space. We worked with Ron Friedman Lighting Design, who did the design for the Terminal Tower, for example. He's come up with a lighting system for the library. It is LED lights that are able to be pre-programmed to do things like note various awareness months and holidays, communicate with our city for things like sporting events and things like that, just to be able to change a color system with an integrated system that works at the push of a button. And we would be able to change it up, plan it in advance, and then also just be able to make the space feel as beautiful and active as possible, and really highlighting this beautiful public space that I think a lot of people don't always associate with the library. They know it's there at the library, but I think they don't know it is the library's to be taken care of. So we've been working with a lighting designer to come up with this and hope to be able to take it out to bid this summer.
Would this make it also more continually year-round? I think we had talked previously about, we didn't close it this winter, right? Because it was a mild
It
winter.
was so mild.
We've closed it a few times when there's ice, because we
Yeah.
don't want to salt treat, the myelin fountain
Yeah.
and everything. So we don't treat it with salt. So we do wait for the ice to melt. So there's a couple periods where it'll be closed for a couple days, maybe
Right.
even if there's a thick ice, but generally it's open through the
Right.
winter. You're correct.
And then just as a reminder for anybody who's not aware, it is the roof of our auditorium and the passageway between the two buildings. So the salt is also to make sure that we don't have any leaks or anything like that into those spaces.
And I would remind everybody that one of the major features of the Lewis Stokes wing is that the part that faces the wonderful grand old library is 80% permeated with glass, so that from every floor, you get to see the garden and the beautiful main library, as opposed to the side facing the Federal Reserve Bank, which is 80% stone. This is part of a feature that we've always sort of wanted to have, and at the time the building was built, the technology for LED lighting and those sort of things just didn't exist. So this is a great modernization and a good reminder of how important the garden is, and remembrance of Linda Eastman as well, who was probably the second most important library person in the history of this library after John G. White and William Brett. So
Are they gonna make it, or I know you probably don't have the design yet, are they gonna make it more lively, more vibrant out there? Because sometimes it looks a little dark.
Yeah, so I'd be
With the
happy
canopy
to
and
share
everything
with
of the
you.
trees.
I can share with you some renderings after this meeting that Ron's team has put together. So it will be a variety of different colors. Each column will have its own piece of lighting. There'll be very targeted architectural pieces of lighting. We can light all of the features of our gates. We can light each one of the little guys that are in the garden as well.
that'll
So
be cute.
it's very nice, and we can change the colors as well. So I think it will be a great opportunity to do things like do a whole rainbow for Pride Month and do something.
green for
if
St. Patrick's Day.
yes,
Oh.
and when the
know that
Browns
you were
win the
gonna say
Super
that.
Bowl, we can just be able to sort of be in a more active conversation, I think, with what's going on around us, and it is always able to be changed in the same way with the same technology that the terminal tower is.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lisa Carey,
Yes.
Mr. Gordon,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 6 is next, a resolution to authorize expenditures for a proper public purpose. Whereas the code states that the board has authority to expend for library purposes, and in the exercise of the power enumerated in this section, all monies, whether derived from county public library fund or otherwise, credited to the Free Public Library under its jurisdiction, and generally do all things it considers necessary for the establishment, maintenance, and improvement of the Free Public Library under its jurisdiction. Whereas on September 13, 2022, the board authorized the library to contract with Ubiquitous Design for the design of a new staff break room in the main library, and on March 21, 24, ratified an agreement with Rycon Construction for construction of the new break room. Whereas Ubiquitous Design's plans include a modest exercise room measuring approximately 260 square feet, which the library estimates is enough space to accommodate a stair climber, treadmill, stationary bicycle, multifunction trainer, and a rack for handheld weights. And whereas the library would like to expend public funds to construct, equip, and maintain a staff exercise area within the new break room, as the library administration believes such an amenity will benefit the library and the public alike by promoting health and well-being of library staff. Whereas the use of funds to promote this plan requires expenditures the library determine that it's a proper public purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that the board declares the expenditure of funds to construct, equip, and maintain a staff exercise area within the new staff break room to be a proper public purpose, and authorizes the library's fiscal officer to expend monies on occasion for these purposes. So moved for Thursday.
So this resolution is before you today, really for the sole reason that what we're proposing here is a staff amenity that won't really be visible to the public and won't be available for the public's use. But we do believe that it is nonetheless a proper public purpose to expend funds to this end, because the goal is to engage staff or give staff the opportunity to exercise, and in so doing improve their health, be able to come back from a lunch break or other break perhaps more energized to complete their work, and thereby benefit the public that we serve. So not really any different from our efforts through the library's FIT committee as a public purpose, but because this is a little bit different from some of the other expenditures that we've made, we wanted to bring this to the board for your consideration, and ultimately a declaration, if you so choose, that these funds are being expended for a proper public purpose.
One of the ways to look at this is that what percentage of the overall break room redesign and everything budget is connected to this.
less than 10.
I was going to say it's less than 10%, so I see no problem.
Do you have an expected completion rate for this new staff room?
We do this summer. So board will recall that we ratified the contract with Rycon last month, broke ground immediately. It was under 20 days. So I think the completion is late July, furniture coming in August. So we hope to be ready by the end of the summer.
I just am curious, is this considered an amenity or a benefit given collective bargaining?
I'm honestly not sure if there is a distinction to be made at this point. It's not a taxable benefit to employees because it's an on-site gym, whereas a membership, for instance, provided to the YMCA would be taxable. So it's not something that has to be bargained over for the bargaining unit staff. But if there's a different distinction, I can certainly look into that and report back on Thursday.
That would be helpful.
Mr. Fisher, you want to take the vote?
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Exhibit 7 is a resolution to renew the maintenance agreement with Tyler Technologies, Inc. for support and to update licensing of the Munis ERP system. Whereas in March 2006, the library entered into a sister agreement with Tyler Technologies for maintenance of the Munis ERP system and continue to expand the functionality of the library's ERP system. Whereas the library system includes financials, human resources, payroll, and general revenue, and the library needs to continue to support and update its licensing. Whereas the effective date of termination of the current maintenance agreement with Tyler for support and to update licensing is May 16, 2024. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the board authorizes executive director, CEO, or his designee to execute all documents necessary to renew the maintenance agreement with Tyler Technologies, subject to the director or legal affairs approval for the period beginning May 17, 2024, and ending May 16, 2025, at a cost not to exceed $93,326.04. The expenditure being charged to the general fund account 1301053533360, computer maintenance. So moved.
Second.
So this is a 5% increase over our expiring term, and this will get us through next year. As you know, we just issued an RFP for our ERP system, and it's due back May 14th. So we are expecting this to, get us through this year. And our goal per the ERP and our schedule is to bring a vendor selection before the board in September. So we will really need this through May.
And basically, Tyler's working with us on Munis since 2006 has been very satisfactory.
Yeah, since 2009 with our payroll too, yes.
That's great.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan.
Yes.
And Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 8 is a resolution ratifying agreements for leased vehicles with Enterprise FM Trust. Whereas on March 18, 2021, the board authorized the library into a lease and maintenance agreement with Enterprise FM Trust for 15 vehicles for a period of 60 months and instructed the administration to present executed agreements to this board for ratification as vehicles are delivered and leases are executed. Whereas due to long lead times caused by supply chain issues stemming from the global COVID-19 pandemic, the library has been able to accept only delivery of new vehicles on a piecemeal basis and has so far received 13 of the 15 vehicles that this board authorized in March 21. Whereas on March 12, 2024, the library took delivery of 3 new vehicles from Enterprise, all of which are 2024 Chevrolet Malibus as shown in the lease schedules. They're attached to this resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the board hereby ratifies and approves the lease with Enterprise FM Trust of the 3 new vehicles as shown in the attachment to this resolution. So moved. I need a second to go Thursday. Thank you.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan.
Yes.
And Mr. Parker.
Yes.
And of course, this was something we've been doing piecemeal as permitted. Exhibit 9 is a resolution to accept a grant from Best Buy Foundation for the Best Buy Teen Tech Center at the Rockport branch. Whereas on September 21, 2017, the board accepted a grant from Best Buy to open a Best Buy Teen Tech Center at the Rockport branch. Whereas the Teen Tech Center opened on November 14, 2018, and offers teens a place where they can develop critical skills through hands-on activity and exploring their interests in programming, filmmaking, music production, and design. Whereas in March 24, the Best Buy awarded the library a $90,000 renewal grant to support and sustain that tech center, whereas the actual grant amount received will be $43,249.09, which represents the difference from unspent funds on the 2023 Clubhouse to Career College grant from Best Buy that the library was unable to spend in full, due mainly to staffing changes within the Best Buy Tech Center, whereas the Cleveland Public Library is grateful for the continued support in making the Tech Center at Rockport a success. Now, therefore, the Library Board of Trustees, pursuant to authority set forth in Revised Code 337540K, hereby accepts a grant from Best Buy in the amount of $90,000 to be deposited in the 275 Tech Centers Fund account 25704646100, and be further resolved that Executive Director, CO, or his designee is authorized to enter into and execute such agreements and instruments as are approved by the library's Director of Legal Affairs that are necessary and appropriate to effectuate the terms and conditions of the grant in this resolution. So moved.
Second.
And of course, obviously, the Best Buy Tech Center has been a real achievement, and we're grateful to have Best Buy's continuing support, and they seem to be happy with us
I
too.
echo your
And
comments
someday maybe we'll get to watch these films that they're making.
and the work that the students are doing as well. I don't know if my colleague is here from Best Buy Team Tech Center, but I will do some inquiry on that and see what we can get for you. But Trustee Corrigan, I echo your comments, continued investment and moving in the right direction.
Thank you.
They keep providing us with additional grants to update it, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that's,
That's been,
do we send them information on how things are going and we provide updates?
Yes.
To them as
We're
well.
required to provide updates
Yeah.
on the funding and what they're doing. And I think it's a real testament to the fact that we're moving in the right direction because we continue to receive the investment. Yes. and
Well, if we're
you
gonna
want-
get that, the videos,
The video,
stuff, maybe we can share with them as well.
Absolutely,
It's just,
absolutely.
To make sure they see where their monies are going. They can use it as advertisement for themselves.
Right.
Mr. Fisher, we'll take the vote.
Ms. Shakarian,
Thank you.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
Exhibit 10 is a resolution to accept grant from Cleveland Public Library Foundation for the early literacy programming, whereas the Public Library Foundation fundraises and seeks grants from various organizations and donors to help to provide financial support to the library, whereas the library and the foundation have developed a process through which the library submit written requests to the foundation, and the foundation makes a determination whether to grant the request, whereas the Director of Youth and Family Engagement submitted a request for funding of the foundation seeking $15,000 to support the library's early literacy program initiatives for youth ages 0 to 8 years of age, and whereas the foundation approved the request and agreed to grant the library $15,000, which will be used to create and present a literacy program that will feature innovative learning experiences for our youngest audiences and their families, and integrates academic, social, and emotional growth, and creates positive conditions for learning. Now therefore be it resolved, the board, pursuant to authority set forth in RC 337540K, hereby accepts the grant from the foundation, the amount of $15,000 to be deposited in 258 Early Literacy Fund account 258-046-46100-12713, and be it further resolved, the Executive Director, CEO, or designee is authorized to enter into and effect such agreements and instruments as may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate the terms and conditions of this resolution, which agreements and instruments shall be subject to the approval of the library's Director of Legal Affairs. So moved.
Second.
If you have any questions about the funding or we just continue to move. with
Jackie,
it.
how much of this is new program?
It will, $10,000 of the fund is going to be used to help revamp some spaces, some spacing at Youth Services Department in Maine.
Okay.
Right, so that when children from 0 to 8 years old and their families come into Maine Library to visit youth services, they have some manipulatives that can support them. And we're looking at children from all different backgrounds. So we're looking at some, making sure we have some things for like different senses and touching and some lighting, even looking at like how do we dim some lighting for our young children who may struggle in some spaces. We want to make sure we open up the space to allow for all learners to be able to come with their families and learn. So we're going to move out some bookshelves. I'm gonna have to work with Mr. I'll work with you. We're gonna move out some of those bookshelves. And we're gonna open up the space just a little bit more to meet the needs of our community. So that's what the goal of this funding will be.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
And Exhibit 11 is a routine, as soon as it comes up here, the Fourth Amendment to the year 2024 appropriation, whereas the code provides for amendment of an appropriation measure when necessary, it's now deemed necessary, and the aggregate of all appropriation classifications does not exceed the total amount submitted to the Board County Budget Commission. Now therefore be resolved that the sums indicated in the attached Fourth Amendment to the year 2024 appropriation schedule be approved. So moved.
Second.
Ms.
And,
Shakarian,
well, I was just going to say, there are no substantial changes here at all.
No, in the general fund, we're just moving between supplies and purchase contracted services for special projects and collections. They originally budgeted in their supply category and they need it rather in purchase contracted services. And then we're appropriating funds in the special revenue funds for the grants that are coming before the board. And we've also received a small increase in our Lockwood Thompson and Judd fund for certified revenue that more than we originally projected. So we're appropriating that. And then we're appropriating the Tech Inc. architect fees for the main library fire panel system replacement.
That's great. And of course, the increase in the those two funds,
Yeah, and the Lockwood Thompson and the Judd fund. In the Judd fund, it was an increase of $15,738. We originally thought we were going to get $260,000 in revenue, but we received notification from the Cleveland Foundation that we're getting $275,738. And then in Lockwood Thompson, we originally projected $210,000 in revenue, and we'll be getting $217,872. So we're just appropriating that difference.
and that largely reflects increase in what the foundation
Yes.
has had
Mhm.
because of the market changes.
And annually, we don't know until like March.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes.
Mr. Corrigan,
Yes,
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
and that concludes the Finance Committee meeting in less than 1 minute, less than half an hour from when we started. So. Since I got
Madam
chastised.
President gave you a
Yes.
directive and you followed it.
Thank you.
I'll
Guess we're
go
moving
real
into the-
slow with this
Huh?
one. Then. I can go real slow.
We're now going to move into the Human Resource Committee report meeting.
I present two exhibits to the committee for consideration at the board meeting. First is Exhibit 12, the regular employment report detailing new hires, transfers, resignations, terminations, retirements, and compensation changes.
Second,
Ms. Butts,
Yes.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes,
Mr. Corrigan,
yes,
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
and it's my pleasure to present Exhibit 13, a retirement recognition citation for Mr. Ron Hill, 34 years with the library. And I do hope he can join the board meeting on Thursday.
second,
Ms. Butts,
Yes.
Ms. Shakarian,
Yes,
Mr. Corrigan,
yes.
and Mr. Parker.
Yes.
and that concludes the Human Resources report.
Trustee Parker, the Community Service Committee meeting.
Yes, let's go right into, we have a wonderful presentation that we're going to have, enhanced services.
So I'll put this in context and then I'll let Amia give you the details and also answer any tough questions you might have. So I think we've spoken a great deal on the strategic plan on the first three of our priorities. The fourth one, we generally don't bring to the board, operating with excellence, because that's what we want and do every day. But what we wanted to bring to you is how we are hoping to bring enhanced services over the life of the strategic plan, the 2030. We all know that we'll have, hopefully by the end of 2030, all of our new buildings in place. We'll be looking at different services, but we've been reaching out to our community and asking them what are the things that they would really like to see us do. And we talk a lot about ours, but what our public services team has looked at looked a little deeper and how that we can provide right now a kind of incremental movement to ultimately by 2030 being where we would like to be, recognizing that we may not have the resources right now. So with that, I'll turn it over to Amia.
Okay, so just like the director said, one of our pillars is operating with excellence. I spoke with my managers, many of them who are here today, and we went out and we talked to our community. We talked to them pre-COVID, we talked to them during COVID, and we talked to them post-COVID. We looked at what it is that they would like to see and what it is that we would be able to provide to them as we operate with excellence. So that is what this presentation is going to show. First slide, please. Okay, so we're looking at increased meeting hours, meeting space hours. So the public would like to be able to utilize our libraries beyond our 10 to 6 current hours. The areas that they're talking about are the meeting rooms, because these are spaces where they have free accessibility to meet in the community. So we looked at that and we said, we can provide them with an 8 to 10 access, as well as a 6 to 8 access. That is before hours and after hours, our normal 10 to 6 hours. So we decided that we needed to break that down because we cannot open all 27 locations and give them this immediate accessibility, but we would like to start immediately giving them what they would like. So we broke it into districts. So when we're looking at District 1, West Park and Eastman will be giving those increased meeting space hours. In District 2, South will be providing that. District 3 will be Huff and Woodland. District 4, we already have the Fleet in the Newburgh Heights accessibility, but we're going to open it up with the Fleet branch. Harvard Lee, and then also District 5, Memorial Nottingham. Now, if you look at this, you'll see that some of these branches are legacy branches. And when we say legacy branches, there's ones that have not been touched by the FMP. But we are figuring out ways to make sure that we can provide public access during those hours anyway. Next slide, please. Something else that they were requesting, they being our beloved pet public, they would like more access to the book lockers. And when we say book lockers, they would like to be able to pick up items before work and after work. They've been able to do that at Main Library via the drive-through for many years, but they could not do that in the branches. So we're looking at, once again, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. access. They may not have staff access between 8 and 10 or 6 and 8, but they will always have access to their materials between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And these are at the same locations. So West Park District 1 and Eastman District 1, they already have book lockers at both of those locations because they have been touched by the FMP. Then we look at District 2, South. South was the very first branch that was ever touched when we talk about the new builds. They do not currently have a book locker, but they will by summer 2024 with John Lane's help. Then we're looking at District 3, Huff and Woodland. Both of those locations, FMP touched, they both have book lockers. So that is great there. Fleet and Newburgh Heights in District 4, they have a book locker. It is not on site, but they do have access to that entire community, and that is utilized 24 hours a day. Harvard Lee, a legacy branch, they will be having a book locker summer of 2024. And then District 5, Memorial Nottingham, a legacy branch, will also be getting a book locker. So all 5 districts will have book lockers by the summer of 2024. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Besides the Newburgh Heights one, because I know that's at the police station.
Yes.
So that's accessible 24 hours a day.
Yes.
Aren't there a couple other ones that have that accessibility? I know MLK is supposed to have it as well, where they're able to access the book locker.
Like Jefferson has it now. And
Jefferson has it up until what time?
So right now, the doors automatically open, but we have had some security issues with the accessibility being before 8 or after 8. So we're trying to make sure that we can provide them with the services that they need without there being security issues. So that's what it's determined that 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. would be best. But right now, they can come and go pretty much anytime the door's open.
But there's no other ones besides those two where you can access the book lockers.
So all of the ones that have book lockers currently that were FMP touched, the doors automatically open if they see movement. But what we're working on is making sure that after 8, they don't open, and before 8, they don't open, because we have had some security issues with that.
Okay.
So I'm just imagining it like Memorial Nottingham, it's not like, Jefferson has sort of a vestibule area that allows for that, but like Memorial Nottingham has a vestibule area, but it's like really tight. So is there extra construction that has to take place, like when a book locker goes in?
Yes, we're figuring that out right now. So it's not quite as easy as buying a book locker. There's power and data, there's access controls, and then there's the physical configuration of the vestibule that has to fit the 2 towers. Well, they're showing 3 there, but the 2 has kind of become our standard. So that's all to be worked out.
Gotcha.
And as I understand it, the issues where the security concerns have been, it's not been vandalism of the equipment as much as misuse of the space, people sleeping there or things like that.
And
correct?
things like that, exactly.
So
Yes.
one of the things that I've always been proud of is that we don't see a whole lot of vandalism of library property because people respect us as part of the community. And there's nothing about the book lockers that would suggest that has changed. Would that be?
No. Okay. No. But then I also do want to respond about Memorial Nottingham as well. There's a telephone, a payphone that is not utilized. And I think that we may be able to move that out of the space, which would give us a little bit more wiggle room to place that book locker in. And the community is very much excited. The Memorial Nottingham manager is right there. Yes. Yes. So that's what we're looking at for book lockers. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we're very proud of, and we worked very hard in 2023 to make sure that the branches were at full complement at each location. We had multiple blitzes. My managers were interviewing for weeks and weeks on end, trying to make sure that we had sufficient staff. We now are in a place where we are winning when it comes to our staff complement. So because of that, we are working on making sure that we raise from pre-COVID our circulation and our foot traffic and our programming because we're fully staffed. So the people, our patrons, know that we have full staff now and they recognize that. So we are going to be providing more robust programming. Now you may say to yourselves, what does robust programming look like? So all of our teams that are in our branches, they are doing a minimum of 4 programs a week. There is mandatory outreach, mandatory in-reach, and mandatory Saturday programming, because we would like the community to start coming back into our branches. We would like the community to see that they are welcome, that there are things to do, that there are things on the weekends when they're off, that there are things that are family engagement, so that we want not just their kids to come in, but we want them to come in and do things with their kids. We want to make sure that now that we're fully robust with our staff, that we can help support other units. So when we have ops, when they have, when they go on parades, when they have the tables at different places, now that we have staff, we're able to do things like that. With the book boxes that are at the different locations in Chinatown, at Wild Wednesdays, we're able to now, with the full staff, with the robust staff, we're able to now provide some of this programming. And the community is excited about that.
So great.
I guess
Love
you already have the busy book box at Edgewater Park too.
We do.
There
And
were
there's
so many people here this weekend, no one could get in or out with their cars. It took us 20 minutes to leave.
and they're adding time onto it. They're adding an evening component to
Oh, really?
that book box, Edgewater, yes.
What hours is that open?
Well, they haven't given us the specific hours yet, but Marina Marquez has taken over the book boxes
Oh,
again.
she
You know,
has?
she had them, she never really left them, and now she has them again.
You have to get her back.
So, yeah, oh, she's excellent with that. But she's going to be getting those night hours because they're still working. And based on us, they would like to have that night programming because of the programming that we bring. So that's why they're expanding. At least that's what they tell us.
Oh, I love hearing this. I think also, shout out to Memorial Nottingham because we had a very busy legal aid clinic there this weekend. And I think when there's programming that also overlaps, it helps because if it's bringing in two different generations and it's already noticeable though. You guys are doing more and more with the new staff. So
And like at East 131, we're looking at having program for single fathers that come in with counselors and doing more with that because the manager of East 131, he brought that to our attention and said, we need to have more programming, speaking with the fathers, and they're very much interested in that, and they're coming into the branches to take advantage of that. Nobody would have thought of that if we didn't speak to our patrons like we normally do.
I think that's something too. I used to work for the county, trying to get in touch with Al Grimes from the Fatherhood Initiative. He does a lot of work with I don't know if you know who he is.
I used to work for him.
You know what? I guess we don't need Al Grimes. No longer need it. We have somebody else. Yeah. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
This next one gets my standing ovations.
Next slide.
Oh, that's your standing ovation time.
Okay, all right.
Have to say that for how long?
Right, okay.
Well,
I love this.
before you get too happy, before you get too happy. So what we
It's
have
a start.
understood is, yes, and that's exactly how we see it, right? Is that all of these things that we're doing here is a start for what we hope to have by 2030, long-term, all of our branches providing book lockers, all of our libraries, providing those, the meeting room spaces. And so what we were looking at is how do we open up Sundays at Main Library and provide community with access. And what we've seen is 80% of the community members who are going into Main are going to the archive and going to the exhibit. The exhibit has been a huge success. It's going to reach over 100,000 people. It will be our biggest exhibit. So we worked with the artist and she is allowing us to extend the exhibit to the end of July. And thus we have looked at it and said, we will work to open up from June to July when we have the tourists in town to be able to go into the exhibit on Sundays from 12 to 4.
Very cool.
And we really want to take advantage of the fact that there are so many more people that are living downtown now.
Yeah.
And they don't recognize the fact that the library is open beyond Monday through Saturday from 10 to 6. And they hear about an exhibit, but they don't have an opportunity to maybe come to the exhibit due to their working hours or their family responsibilities. With this, we have access to Brett Hall in the archive, and it just opens up that portion of the branch. I'm a branch person, of the library. But there's minimal staff required. So we do have our safety. There are potential docents, but there's a minimal level of staff that is needed. And the director said that he wanted to give Corrigan a Christmas gift early. So this is what you get right now.
Yes, all right.
That's a start.
Right.
I'm going to put on John and the director as well, that there's no reason the garden can't be open during that time on Sunday as well.
True.
And tell food trucks and let them line up on Superior for that reason.
Nice.
Make it a party.
Note taken. Note taken. Well, I mean, one of the things that we're looking at, and Tiffany is on her phone and on her computer and doing like 18 things at the same time, but is that we are looking to bring the artist back to do a presentation and like do a major campaign about the archives, getting people here during the summer and getting people here on Sundays, and also getting people to come and see her when she speaks about the exhibit. I came down, I had the director from the Seattle Public Library visiting on the eclipse that weekend. So he came in here on Saturday, and as we walked up to Maine, there were people coming behind us. There were tourists from other places. They were like, oh, I hear about this thing called the archive inside the main library. We should go visit it. And so they walked in behind us. You started to hear all this. And he has one of the architectural treasures to see at a public library. And he said, we don't have anything like this. I wish we had a floor that we could do something like this in. And so now it is, how do we take the hall and turn it into the Brett, or something of that nature, where everybody wonders what's going to be the next exhibit there.
Did we move a gift shop over there too? 'Cause I think that's what you were gonna do.
Yeah, we're still trying to figure out the gift shop. We've got to figure it out, especially if we get to a place where people are going to come. You have 100,000 people come through it, right? It is a really viable
T-shirt, a
opportunity.
bag, or something, yeah.
A T-shirt, a bag, things of that nature that people could have access to. We've got to figure that out.
And I'm going to put in John's head that I've always thought we don't use the space to the left of main entrance that used to be part of the card catalog area. And that has, I don't know that we've ever
That's
made good
right,
architectural use of that space since the card catalog has been gone. And the card catalog has been gone almost as long as I've been on this
Probably
board.
most
So,
people in
so
Cleveland don't even remember
yeah,
when it was there.
in my mind, the most wasted spaces in main library have been that space and the fifth floor. We're doing better on the fifth floor, I know, but because we need the storage and stuff like that. But particularly in that first floor, the access that's possible there, it just makes it appropriate to find something to use. So,
And I want to say, though, we are looking at more enhancements of use for the main library. And if we find that between June 2nd and July 28th, that the public really would like to see what's going on at the main branch, then we may expand.
that's great.
Yeah, that's the idea. It gives us an opportunity to hear from them and say, the exhibit hall is great, but we really want to be able to get access to the building, and then we'll determine how we move there. So thank you, Ms. Hudson.
Thank you to my manager.
Yeah. And thank you to Mrs. Parks, because Mrs. Parks said, I'm going to give this to Amia. So, right, we appreciate the work. And Stephanie was a big part of helping to pull this together and with the presentation. So.
And I want to make just a question. Is it still true that a big chunk of Saturday's traffic is still the foreign literature department, families that are using that? Is that still true?
Yes, less and less. It used to be very, our Cantonese, our Mandarin readers. So I've asked Neelish about that. It's fallen a little bit, but the magazines still are very, very popular. And he says it's still his busy family day.
Okay.
But I will be speaking to you about something that it will help to drive that and drive some other things. But I will not keep us here because we've got to get down to see the governor. But I will be bringing that to those of you who are interested in the Cleveland Public Library becoming one of the premier international libraries in the world.
Perfect. And I was just going to tell everybody that the director is still a rock star when he goes to things like the PLA National Meeting in Columbus. Oh, you're with Felton. Yeah, I'm with Felton.
Love it.
Well, thank you, everyone. Michael.
Thank you.
We're adjourned.
Move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.
Brian, do you have a?
All right.